despite its many, many negative Steam reviews landing at a mostly negative status, I thought the Call of Duty World War II beta was actually pretty good. Sure, the menus are not optimized for PC, but when you get down to the raw gameplay, it was exactly what I look for in a COD game. It's fast-paced, it's class-based, arcade shooter. Without further ado, let's jump into some of the weapons and create a class. So this first class here that I'm going to show off is a shotgun class with the last shotgun, the toggle action, and if you throw extended mags and the advanced rifling for the extended range, pairing that with the airborne division, so you get faster sprint, longer sprint duration, climbing obstacles, and putting on the gunslinger, which allows you to shoot while sprinting and diving, it can be a pretty nasty combo. In fact, I seriously think that nobody thought of doing this or something, because when they made these divisions, they kind of had a primary weapon in mind. Each division is supposed to have a primary, right? Like the infantry is ARs, and then airborne's supposed to be some machine guns, expeditionary is shotguns. But I tried expeditionary on shotgun, and it's just terrible. There's no reason to not run airborne on pretty much every class unless there's a very niche case. Because the airborne class just gives you the extra sprint duration, it gives you the extra sprint speed, it lets you climb obstacles faster. I mean, I don't know why I wouldn't want this on a shotgun class for flanking. That's just way too convenient. And as you can see, with the extended mags, the shotgun is pretty disgusting. I mean, you get 9 shots. It normally takes about 3 to 4, even 2 sometimes, depending on the range where you're at. But I mean, you can kill, 2, 3, even 4 people if you're lucky in one clip. And it's not like the reload takes very long at all. So let's talk about the maps a little bit. The maps in this Call of Duty are pretty hectic. I mean, they definitely lend themselves to this sort of run and gun gameplay more than they ought to, in my opinion. They should have more open areas, more lines of sight that are longer than just, the range of the shotgun. I mean, realistically. But they're not. There's just way too many ways to flank, way too many close quarters, which it can be okay, but there's just a lot of mismatches between the divisions, the score streaks, and then like the actual gameplay itself. Like, the score streaks are way too difficult to achieve anything realistic. In games that I would go, 30 and 40 kills, I would be lucky if I got 2 UAVs. And I'm top of the leaderboard with that score. So I think that definitely needs some fine-tuning, some tweaking with the score streaks. But overall, I think that shotgun specifically is very, very strong. Of course, now we're using the second class I'm going to show you guys, which is using the PPSH as the first primary, and then the Commonwealth as the second primary. And I think this actually is the best overall class you can run. Not necessarily the PPSH, but any submachine gun with your 2 favorite attachments, and then you run the airborne division and the rifleman basic training, so you can have the Commonwealth as your second primary. And you get the faster weapon swap. It is just disgusting. You can demolish people at close to medium range with your SMG, and then once you're at one of those one of those rare long lines of sight, you can just whip out the sniper, and then just easy one-shot kills. And since you got the airborne division, you can just move around the map extremely quickly. It's really not even fair. Of course, this is just one of the maps, but you'll see later on that they all are very similar. I mean, they're the basic 3-lane, the quote 3-lane maps that Call of Duty is famous for. Alright, so let's talk about snipers a little bit. This sniper, the Commonwealth, is one of 3. I believe there's 3 snipers, and it is disgusting. I think that the one-shot kill hitbox for this gun should definitely be reduced a little bit. I mean, it's basically anything above the waist is just a one-shot kill, which is kind of ridiculous for how easy it is to aim. And even more than that, the clip size of 10 that is just bonkers for a sniper. That's bolt action. Like, you hardly ever need to reload with this. It should probably be something more like 5, maybe 7, but definitely not 10, unless there's an extended mags attachment that you put on. Then 10, I think, could make sense. Now, I don't have any footage of ARs or LMGs, which is something else that I wanted to talk about, but basically, there's not really any reason to use either of them. The ARs are essentially just worse SMGs. They got a little bit more range on them, and maybe a little bit more of a punch, but there's really no reason to use them. They make you quite a bit slower, and the reloads are slower. And so, with these kind of map styles, there's not really any reason to use them. The small open areas that you'd actually have to cover that may be better for an AR, you can cover so quickly with an SMG, so it doesn't really matter. And then the LMGs, well, those are even worse. I actually tried at one point to make an LMG class. I used the Armored Division, I used an LMG, and I tried to set up the bipod. It does not work. There's not really any spot you can set up in any of the maps that I know of that you could effectively use that. I mean, there's just way too many ways to flank, which, don't get me wrong, flanking is definitely a good thing. It needs to be an option so you don't get, you can't get spawn camped as easily, you can't get just, it deters camping, right? So that is a good thing. But they kind of just went with to the extreme in this. The LMGs are basically unusable. They're just wildly inconsistent. I mean, the recoil is insane. The time to kill is not really any better than SMGs or ARs. Like, I just felt like it was worse on basically all fronts. You're extremely slow with them. But enough of that. Let's take a look at the new game mode, War, that they came out with in this game. While the idea behind this game mode was fantastic, its implementation is definitely less than ideal. It features much more objective-based gameplay than other modes, since the players build bridges, they arm bombs, and they escort a payload all within one game. However, the map design is really what disappoints here. Each section of the game really only caters to a specific style of play, which makes it a bit awkward and annoying to play with your own style. For example, the bridge building section really only allows for sniping because they block off areas, assumingly to avoid spawn camping, but in reality, all it does is limit your flanking options to basically none, and funnels everyone into this one long line of sight, which just lends itself to just camping with snipers. This section, however, the bomb section, I find extremely fun. I think this was a fantastic design choice. Having a section where both teams have to push and defend is just awesome, because there's no just only camping one side, only doing one thing. It's a mixture of both. There's plenty of lines of sight. There are really only a handful of ways to flank, but I think that there's lots of cover. They even have building action in this, that you can build these walls and destroy the walls, which I think is a really neat idea. In reality, I feel like I need to be able to tell my teammates, hey, don't build these walls so we can actually see them coming, but that may be too much to ask, and I understand if it is. Also here we've got a little bit of featured gameplay of the first sniper, the semi-auto, which, if you're accurate at all, there's no reason to not just use the bolt action. I mean, think about this. They both have the same number of shots in a clip. This one is only a one-shot kill as a headshot. The other one is a one-shot kill almost all the time. So, yeah, there's no reason. I mean, just look at this. This is disgusting. There's no reason not to use the Commonwealth. And this is the section I was talking about, with the sniping just being atrocious in this game mode. Because, as you can see, I just killed, what, 4 snipers this life? Because that's all anybody does at this section. Because if you actually try to do the objective, it's just going to be people sniping you. And it basically requires you to have smokes unlocked, which I did not for a long time, because honestly, I wasn't really sure the other use case I would have for them. I guess it's useful for capturing on domination, but without smokes this is virtually impossible to do. So to wrap things up, if you're looking for a casual, fast-paced shooter, I think that this game will definitely fit the bill. I do, however, highly recommend not buying or playing on PC, as it is clear the game is not designed with PC in mind, with its settings, balance, and optimization. This is by no means a bad game. I know I've complained, but a lot of it has been nitpicking. But based solely on my beta experience, I think this is a solid game. I'm still unsure if I'll buy it or not. But I hope you enjoyed my in-depth review, and as always, stay fresh.